Hey guys, today I was working in this tiny little cupboard, which is something that we are used to as electricians. Only enough space in there to get my tiny little ladder. The electrics were a mess. As you can see, there's a lot of cables, a lot of wiring, and 2 fuse boards to merge. This is an old style meter. The one you see on the left is a tele switch that switches the electric over to a cheaper, lower rate tariff. I learned this from the meter expert, John Faultless. And this is an RCD unit they put in to facilitate the need for RCD protection for this board. So the meter tails go into the RCD unit and then they come out into the main switch of that board, which means that all the circuits are RCD protected. As much as I would love to tidy up all the cables coming out the main head, coming out the meters, we are not allowed to touch those. So I have advised the client to call their network provider who will be installing a new smart meter for them. I went up into the loft and it was a mess. I could see the supply cable coming in from the top, which was quite interesting. As I was looking for where the cables are going, it's kind of clipped across and there was so many other random junction boxes and everything else that you would find in an old installation. This old wiring I will be removing, rectifying, re-terminating, as there is some single insulation exposed and I do need to figure out what is feeding what and what goes where. So yeah, as you can see, there is another connection there. Looks a little bit burnt, but that is just on the outside. So I lifted up this board to see where the supply cable is going and it's very neatly clipped, I can say that, and it goes all the way over there across the joists. We'll see, there you go, a little bit over there. I don't know if you can see it. Can you see in the video? No, it's clipped on the other side of the joist where it's not seen on the video. Oh, there were so many spider webs, and look at the dust. All of that is there flying around. So where I was in there quickly, I just used my t-shirt to cover my nose, but when I go back into the loft to repair everything, I will be wearing a proper mask, which is highly advised. Make sure you protect those lungs, because 1 off, 2 off times in the loft won't hurt you, but as an electrician you will be in the loft repeatedly, so you want to make sure you are protecting yourself and your health. I started by removing the cover from the old board, which is for the original part of the house. The second board is for the extension. So I started off with some identification, some testing, just to figure out what is feeding what and what all the cables are for. There were 2 cables twisted together in the top of the MCB, which I would obviously have to figure out what that is feeding as a part of the process. This shelf kept hitting me in the back of my head and my hair kept getting caught in it. So, you know, what we have to do as electricians is make sure that we are comfortable while working. So I ended up deciding to remove it, and it was really well wedged in there with nails and cut into the architrave of the door. So I had to just really work hard to get it off. I ended up removing the cables and eventually it came out. But the most important thing is to plan ahead. I could see, I was really sweating at this moment. So then I discovered this little door, which was great. Honestly, that was a lifesaver. So yeah, we ended up removing the cover off the second board and started by removing the cables that were in the way of me removing the shelf. So yeah, back to what I was saying, which is the most important part is for you to be comfortable while working. I find that if I spend time to make myself comfortable, it makes it easy in the long term so that my neck's not hurting at the end of it all. Yeah, and I realized, you know what, the shelf is in the way anyways for the board change and tenant wasn't using it. So I marked up my cables with a Sharpie, little 1 dash for number 1, 2 dashes for number 2. There are different systems of doing it. Let me know what you guys use, but that's what I like. And you know, we do test before we reinstate anyways, but it makes the process a lot easier. So I took out this gland and poorly terminated cable, SWA, took it off so that I could take off the shelf. Here we are, just doing bits and bobs, pulled it out, and then there was a little connector block that was just making it annoying. So snipped that off to make it easier for me, and yeah, pulled it out just like that. And then got rid of the meter tails as well, and that made it so much easier to just pull the shelf out. Yeah, and that just goes in the bin and gives me all that room to work in freely and space to put the consumer unit on there. Then I took out all of the cables and bunched them up together so that it's easier to pull the old board off. Took off the screws that's holding it up. Could have used my impact, but you know, sometimes there's no need. And this was one of those ones where it wasn't that hard to take off. Took the board off, and that is going in the bin because I don't really bother reselling old breakers and things like that on eBay. I know a lot of people do, but yeah, this is the original board. After I took it off, there was some cables in the back that were just chopped off, and got rid of the old doorbell transformer as well. They're not using that. And yeah, then I had a little tea break, and I looked at where the nearest B&Q is so that I could go buy bits of wood, fire-rated wood. This is not going in the fire. That would be funny, starting a bonfire with fire-rated firewood. So yeah, just chopped off 2 pieces to put my backing board onto. So what I normally do is drill these onto the wall, and then I put my backing board on top of that, so that gives me the room behind to run my cables. Yeah, so here is me using my amazing SDS. Honestly, that SDS is a life changer. When I first used it, I was shocked, and today I actually used the Lewden board. I've never used the Lewden board before, but I really love the community they've got on social media. So I thought, you know what, let's give it a go. And I got the biggest one that's available, and it comes pre-populated with a main switch and a SPD. What I noticed at first is the design. I quite like the shape. It seems quite slimline and a lot taller, so that you have a lot more room above your RCBOs or breakers to organize your cables. And the SPD is on the far left side, right at the end, which I quite like because it gives you all the room in the middle to spread out all the breakers you want, and you know, make space for thermal dissipation. This is how I get rid of my knockouts. I don't know if there's a better way. Let me know, guys. I literally just whack it with a screwdriver or a pair of pliers. Normally I would drill my own custom entry for the cables at the bottom of the board, run my cables that way, it's neater. However, I don't want to be extending cables because that adds weak spots to a circuit that I don't really need. So I decided to not extend and sacrifice the Instagram worthy look for functionality, practicality, and yeah, just making sure that I'm not adding extra unnecessary weak spots for the sake of a perfect Instagram picture. And grommet strips, I've ordered those door car strip things that everyone uses on Instagram, but they didn't arrive on time, so I'm using the grommet strips that I just normally use. Me knocking out the bottom bit for the SWA that's supplying the garage. And yeah, here is the board already up because I forgot to film the bit where I'm putting it up. Yeah, pop that on there. So what I normally do is add a screw just to help hold it up for me while I balance it out and level it, because this board is quite heavy to hold one-handed while you're up on a ladder all the way at the top. If it was a little bit lower level, you know, I might be able to use my kneecap or something to hold it up. But yeah, so popped a screw in the middle, made it a little bit loose so it can hang on there. I've got this small little spirit level from Tool Station. They had it by the tills and I couldn't resist. It's so cute. It's magnetic. The one I have currently is like a Milwaukee one as well that I got from Tool Station, but it's not magnetic, so it just slides off sometimes. So this was quite handy. So yeah, just leveled it up and then added a few extra screws, penny washers. So I only added 2 penny washers here because somehow I lost my container with all of them in. So when I do go back, I'm going to add it for the rest of the screws because it adds extra support for the board that I think is quite necessary. Here's all the RCBOs. I got some 16s, 6 and 32 amp, and flexi tails. Must have Prismian flexi tails, double insulated and color coded throughout, so they're not just grey on the outside, for easy identification. Anyways, what I did, I twisted the earth around the cables. What you can do is use like electrical tape or whatever else so that they're bunched up. When they're in, you'll be able to identify easily what cable goes up is married up with whichever. Anyways, sorry, trying to express what I'm trying to express, but the time is running fast, so I'm trying to keep up with making this voiceover. So yeah, normally breakers, what I do is I hold them out of the fuse board and I terminate the cables, dress the cable in, and then pop it on the DIN rail and organize everything else. So yeah, I've put them all in. I hadn't tightened the bus bar at that point. This is after I put all the cables in without extending them. So I literally had to put everything on the left side because the cables were not long enough to reach the right side. The cover was really easy to put on, which was great. Long gone are the days of struggling and fighting with a fuse board cover to get it on. Here are a few unnecessary holes I had to make. I had to run a little bit of trunk in there for cables from the old board. This job took way longer than it normally does, literally about 2 to 3 times longer than usual. So I ran out of time to make good in the cupboard and label up, and there's a few small things that I have to come back and rectify, and hopefully by then they'll have a new meter and everything will look super neat.